Jack Mason stood at attention in the small briefing room, his Marine uniform crisp despite the humid July air. 5 other people sat around the table, 3 in military dress and 2 in suits that screamed government. None of them looked happy. "Ease, Staff Sergeant," Colonel Lisa Bright said, her voice tight. "You're probably wondering why you're here." Jack nodded. He had been pulled from training without explanation, driven to this secure facility and made to wait for 3 hours. "2 days ago we made first contact," said the older man in a dark suit. "My name is Alan Fisher, State Department. This is Dr. Olivia Green from Xenobiology." He nodded toward the woman next to him. "And we need your help." Jack shifted his weight. "My help? Sir, I'm just a Marine." "You're the Marine who drew the short straw," Colonel Bright said, sliding a folder across the table. "The aliens call themselves the Galactic Federation. They've demanded a representative for what they call assessment of species capabilities." Jack opened the folder. Inside was a printout of what looked like a lottery. Names of military personnel from around the world, narrowed down again and again until just his remained. "They wanted someone with combat experience but under the age of 30, Dr. Green explained. "They ran some kind of selection algorithm, and you're it." "What exactly is this assessment?" Jack asked. Alan leaned forward. "Combat trials. They want to see what humans are capable of." Jack looked around the table. "Why not send our best? Olympic athletes, special forces." "Because they insisted on their selection process," Colonel Bright said. "And because if we refuse, they've made it clear Earth will be classified as a protected planet. Basically, their polite way of saying we'll be under their control." Dr. Green tapped her tablet and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed tall, slender beings with 4 arms and what looked like exoskeletons. "The Federation representatives," she said. "They evolved from low-gravity worlds, most life-bearing. Planets in our galaxy are apparently much less dense than Earth." "Which means?" Jack asked. "Which means you're a Deathworlder to them," the doctor said with a small smile. 3 times stronger than they'd expect for your size, but they don't seem impressed by that. They think we're primitive because we evolved in such harsh conditions." Jack studied the aliens. "So I fight for Earth's freedom?" "Not exactly," Alan said. "We're negotiating full terms, but how you perform will determine our standing. If you fail early, we'll have less leverage." The door opened, and a Marine rushed in, whispering something to Colonel Bright. "They're here," she announced. "Staff Sergeant, meet your trainer." The being that entered the room was nothing like the hologram. Shorter than Jack, with blue-tinted skin and 6 finger-like appendages on each of its 4 hands. It wore what looked like a uniform with strange symbols. "This is Xyler," Dr. Green said. "Federation tech expert assigned to brief you on their weapons and combat styles." Xyler bowed slightly. "Human Mason, I will prepare you as regulations require. We depart in 7 Earth days." Jack stood up straighter. 7 days isn't much time to train for alien combat. Xyler's mouth parts moved in what might have been a smile. "It is sufficient. Most species require minimal preparation for tasks they will likely fail." The room went quiet. "I'll do my best," Jack said finally. "Indeed," Xyler replied. "However, your best will be measured against beings who evolved for combat, not survival. There is a difference that Deathworlders often fail to understand." For the next week, Jack trained non-stop with Xylar. He learned about energy weapons that could stun or kill, about gravity manipulation fields, and about the dozen different species he might face in combat. Some were massive tanks of muscle, others were quick and deadly like living blades. All had evolved in environments that made them perfect for something. "Humans are perfect for nothing," Xyler explained during a break. "Except, perhaps, enduring. Your planet tried to kill you so many times that you became stubborn. An interesting quality, but not one that wins battles." On the 6th day, Jack's friend, Lieutenant Samantha Jones, was allowed to visit him. The moment Xyler left them alone, her professional smile dropped. "I heard what that blue jerk has been telling you," she said. "He told me the Federation's biology team gives you less than a 2% chance of making it through all the trials." Jack shrugged. Better odds than a lottery. This isn't funny, Jack. They're setting you up to fail. The whole thing is rigged so humans will have to accept protected status. Protected doesn't sound so bad. Samantha's eyes narrowed. It means becoming a client race. They'll protect us from developing any technology that might threaten them. They'll protect us from expanding beyond Earth. They'll protect us right into being their servants. Jack sat down heavily. So what do I do? I'm not a super soldier. No, Samantha agreed. But you're the most stubborn man I've ever met. Remember that training exercise where you broke your foot and still finished the course? Jack smiled slightly. Colonel wasn't happy about the medical bills. The point is, these aliens have no idea what humans are capable of when pushed. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small knife. This was my grandfather's. It's brought me luck. I want you to take it. Jack took the knife. It was simple. A folding blade with a wooden handle worn smooth by years of use. I don't think they'll let me bring weapons. Hide it. And if things get bad, she paused. Use it. The next morning, Jack stood before the Federation transport ship. It was sleek and silver, with no visible engines or windows. Colonel Bright and Dr. Green stood with him, along with several government officials. Remember your training, Colonel Bright said. And remember what's at stake. Dr. Green handed him a small device. This will monitor your vital signs. If anything happens, we'll know. A door opened in the side of the ship and Xyler appeared. It is time, Human Mason. Jack took a deep breath and nodded to his superiors. As he walked toward the ship, Samantha stepped forward from the security line. Mason, she called out. He turned and she gave him a sharp salute. They're underestimating you, she said. Make them regret it. The door closed behind Jack with a soft hiss. Through a viewport, he watched Earth grow smaller until it was just a blue dot among countless stars. He felt the weight of Samantha's knife in his boot and the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was just one Marine, but now he was Earth's only champion in a galaxy that had already decided humans weren't worth respecting. That, Jack decided, was about to change. The Federation ship arrived at a massive space station that looked like a shining metal flower. Jack stared through the viewport as they docked, trying to hide his amazement. Everything was bigger than he had imagined. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around the station like bees around a hive. This is Central Hub, Xyler explained. The combat arena is located in the inner petals. Jack nodded, adjusting the simple gray uniform they had given him. It felt too light, almost like wearing paper. When do the trials begin? Tomorrow. Today you will be examined and registered. Xyler's forearms moved in different directions as he operated controls. Do not embarrass your species by showing fear. Jack stood straighter. I'm not afraid. Xyler made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. All creatures fear what they do not understand, Human Mason. And you understand very little. The registration process took hours. Jack was scanned, measured, and tested in ways he couldn't comprehend. Alien doctors poked at him with strange instruments while talking in languages his translator couldn't catch. They seemed especially interested in his muscle density and bone structure. Fascinating adaptation to high gravity, one doctor said, but so inefficient. So much energy wasted on maintaining this heavy frame. Jack kept his mouth shut. Let them think what they wanted. That night, in his small room on the station, Jack couldn't sleep. He took out Samantha's knife and turned it over in his hands. The simple tool felt more real than anything else in this alien place. He practiced quick draws from his boot until he could do it without looking. Morning came too soon. Xyler arrived, with 2 guards, and led Jack to a large chamber filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange Jack couldn't tell which end was the front. A tall, thin alien with skin like polished metal approached them. This is the human? It asked Xyler. Yes, Federation official Kraltox. This is Human Mason. Kraltox studied Jack with eyes that changed color as they moved. Smaller than expected, but dense. Very dense. He handed Jack a small device. This will guide you through the arena. Your first opponent awaits. The arena was nothing like Jack had imagined. Instead of a simple fighting ring, he entered what looked like an entire ecosystem under a massive dome. Trees, rocks, small lakes, and different terrains stretched before him. The device on his wrist beeped and pointed him toward a rocky area. Jack moved carefully, using the training Xylar had given him. The gravity felt slightly lighter here, which gave him an advantage. He climbed up a rock formation and scanned the area. His first opponent was waiting in a small clearing. It looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with scaled skin and feathered arms. The creature held a staff with glowing ends. "Human," it called out in a high voice. "I am Trisk of the Avian Cluster. Let us test your worth." Jack climbed down and approached cautiously. The creature was about his height but moved with incredible speed, spinning its staff in complex patterns. The fight began suddenly. Trisk lunged forward, the staff whistling through the air. Jack dodged, feeling the energy from the weapon raise the hairs on his arm as it passed. He countered with a low kick, but Trisk jumped impossibly high. For several minutes, they exchanged blows. Jack couldn't match the alien's speed, but his strength was clearly surprising his opponent. When Trisk's staff connected with Jack's shoulder, it should have sent him flying. Instead, Jack grabbed the weapon and pulled. Trisk stumbled forward, off balance. Jack used the moment to drive his fist into the alien's midsection. The blow connected with a solid thump and Trisk collapsed, gasping. "Yield," the alien wheezed. "I yield." Jack stepped back, breathing hard. His wrist device beeped again with new directions. His next two opponents fell in similar fashion. A squid-like creature with tentacles that conducted electricity. A massive, slow alien that seemed made of living stone. Both underestimated Jack's combination of strength and tactical training. Neither expected a primitive human to adapt so quickly to their fighting styles. In a control room above the arena, Kraltox watched with growing concern. "He shouldn't be progressing this quickly," he told his assistant. "These Deathworlders are more adaptable than we anticipated." "Should we stop the trials?" the assistant asked. "No." Kraltox's eyes flashed red. "Increase the difficulty. Send in a Varaxian." Back in the arena, Jack paused by a stream to drink and catch his breath. 3 victories. His body ached, but he felt a growing confidence. Maybe humans weren't so outmatched after all. His device beeped with his 4th location. As Jack approached the designated area, a hot desert section of the arena, he felt a shiver despite the heat. Something was different. The Varaxian waited, in the center of a ring of black sand. It stood on 4 powerful legs, with 2 additional limbs that ended in razor-sharp appendages. Its body was covered in natural armor plating, and its head featured multiple eyes that tracked Jack's every move. "Human," the creature growled, its voice like stones grinding together. "You will go no further." Jack circled warily. This opponent was unlike the others, larger, more dangerous, clearly built for killing. He remembered Xylar's lessons. Varaxians were apex predators, ambush hunters with devastating close-range attacks, but poor endurance. "Keep moving," Jack muttered to himself. "Wear it down." The Varaxian charged with shocking speed. Jack barely dodged the first sweep of its bladed limb. The second caught him across the chest, tearing his uniform but barely missing his skin. For long minutes they fought across the hot sand. Jack landed several solid blows, but they seemed to do little against the creature's armor. His own arms were covered in cuts from near misses. Jack was tiring. The Varaxian sensed it and pressed harder. Jack stumbled on loose sand and the creature seized its chance. Its right blade swung in a vicious arc. Pain exploded through Jack's body as the razor-sharp appendage connected with his left arm just below the shoulder. Blood sprayed across the black sand as Jack fell to his knees. He looked down in shock at the stump where his arm had been, his severed limb lying several feet away. The arena went silent. In the control room, Kraltox nodded with satisfaction. "As expected, the trial is over." Medical droids moved toward the arena to retrieve what they assumed would be a corpse or a fighter, in need of immediate surrender processing. In the observation room, the human delegation watched in horror. Admiral George Porter slammed his fist on the console. "This is butchery, not combat." Dr. Olivia Green frantically analyzed Jack's vital signs on her monitor. The readings were chaotic, blood pressure dropping rapidly. "He's not dead," she whispered. Then louder. "He's not dead." On the arena floor, as darkness threatened to take him, Jack reached into his boot with his remaining hand. His fingers closed around Samantha's knife. The Varaxian was already turning away, victory assumed. With a roar that was more animal than human, Jack drove the knife into the sand and used it to push himself upright. Blood poured from his severed arm as he stood on shaking legs. The Varaxian turned back, its multiple eyes widening in what might have been surprise. Jack yanked the knife from the sand. With trembling fingers, he pressed the red-hot blade against his stump, cauterizing the wound with a sizzling sound. His scream echoed through the arena, but he remained standing. "Impossible," Kraltox muttered, as Jack raised his remaining arm, in the signal to continue. The fight wasn't over. The Deathworlder wasn't done. The Varaxian stared at Jack, its multiple eyes blinking in what might have been confusion. No opponent had ever continued fighting after losing a limb. It was not part of the natural order. Jack swayed on his feet, the pain from his cauterized stump sending waves of nausea through his body. But he stayed upright, his remaining hand clenched into a fist. The knife had fallen from his grip after he used it to seal his wound. "Continue," Jack rasped, the translator on his chest converting his words. The Varaxian made a sound like grinding metal. "You should be dead, human." "Not today," Jack said. He took a shaky step forward. In the control center, Kraltox had moved from his chair to stand directly before the viewing screen. "This is unprecedented," he said to his staff. "The match should be called. No species continues combat after catastrophic injury." His assistant looked uncertain. "The rules do not specify that a combatant must stop after losing a limb. There is no precedent because it has never happened." "Because it is irrational," Kraltox snapped. "Scan his brain. He must be in shock." Back in the arena, Jack forced himself to think through the pain. The Varaxian was fast and deadly, but it had expected him to fall. Now it seemed hesitant, circling at a distance. Jack needed to use that confusion. He bent slowly and picked up a handful of the black sand. The Varaxian watched, clearly trying to understand his strategy. When the creature finally charged, Jack threw the sand at its multiple eyes. The Varaxian screeched and reared back, momentarily blinded. Jack used the opening to drive his shoulder into the creature's midsection, knocking it off balance. They fell together, rolling across the sand. Jack took more cuts from the creature's bladed limbs, but managed to wrap his legs around one of its main walking limbs and twist with all his strength. There was a satisfying crack and the Varaxian howled. Jack pushed away, struggling back to his feet. The Varaxian rose more slowly, now limping on its broken leg. They faced each other again, both bleeding, both damaged. The fight continued in a brutal dance. Jack used his environment, luring the creature into loose sand that slowed its movements. He took hits that would have killed most humans, but kept fighting with a ferocity that seemed to unnerve his opponent. Finally, when Jack managed to drive the creature's own blade into the sand where it stuck fast, the Varaxian backed away and lowered its head. "I yield," it announced. "The human may pass." Jack stood breathing heavily, covered in blood and sand. He raised his remaining arm in acknowledgement, then collapsed as medical droids rushed in. News of the one-armed human warrior spread rapidly through the station. Species that had dismissed Earth as an insignificant backwater planet now gathered around viewing screens to watch replays of the fight. When Jack woke in the medical bay, Admiral Porter was sitting beside him. "You've caused quite a stir, Mason," the Admiral said with a grim smile. "The Federation Council is in an uproar." Jack tried to sit up and winced. His left side felt strange. When he looked down, he saw a basic mechanical arm attached where his had been severed. It was silver and clearly alien in design. "What's this?" he asked. "We demanded you be allowed a prosthetic," Porter explained. "Basic technology only, according to their rules, but better than nothing." Dr. Green had to threaten to withdraw Earth completely from the trials before they agreed. Jack flexed the mechanical fingers. They responded slowly but steadily. How long was I out? 12 hours. They wanted to give you more time, but we know that would count as a forfeit. Jack nodded. When's the next fight? Porter looked at him carefully. You don't have to continue, son. You've already shown more than enough to change how they see us. With respect, sir, I'm not done yet. The Admiral nodded slowly. That's what I told them you'd say. Your next trial begins in 2 hours. After Porter left, a small, furry alien entered the room. It stood about 4 feet tall and had large, expressive eyes. Hello, human Mason, it said in a high, musical voice. I am Errol, assigned as your translator and guide for the remainder of the trials. Jack looked at the creature curiously. I thought Xylar was my guide. Errol's fur rippled in what might have been amusement. Xylar requested reassignment. Your continued survival has unsettled him. Jack couldn't help but smile. Good. I have been instructed to inform you that you may withdraw at any time with honor. No other species has continued the trials after such injury. Jack tested his new arm again, rotating the wrist. Where I come from, we have a saying. It's just a flesh wound. Errol blinked rapidly. Your translator must be malfunctioning. Loss of a limb is considerably more severe than a flesh wound. It's a joke, Jack explained. It means we don't give up easily. The small alien seemed to consider this. Most Federation species evolved in safe environments where serious injury meant certain death. The concept of fighting on after losing a limb is disturbing to many. Meanwhile, Kraltox had called a meeting with the Federation Council. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of worlds, all talking at once about the human fighter. Order, called the council. Leader, a tall being with translucent skin. Official Kraltox has the floor. Kraltox stood before the assembled representatives. The human's continued participation makes a mockery of the trials. He should have conceded after losing a limb. No other species would continue fighting so irrationally. Council member Tella, a small female with feathered arms, leaned forward. Perhaps we've misunderstood these Deathworlders. Their planet's harsh conditions may have created unexpected adaptations. Adaptations? This is madness, Kraltox insisted. Our scientists believe the human is operating on primitive survival instincts. These creatures evolved from prey animals that would continue fleeing even when gravely injured. Dr. Frank Miller, Earth's xenobiologist who had been invited to observe, cleared his throat. If I may, council members, humans have something called neuroplasticity. Our brains rewire themselves after injury. We can adapt to new limitations. Quickly, the Federation medical officer, a being with 6 eyes and tentacle-like fingers, looked intrigued despite himself. Is this common among humans? Frank nodded. We have thousands of years of stories about one-armed, one-legged, even blind warriors who kept fighting. In our history, a famous admiral continued commanding naval battles after losing an arm. As Jack prepared for his next trial, he was surprised to find a small crowd of aliens watching him. Some kept their distance, but others approached to ask questions. Many seemed genuinely curious, rather than dismissive. Errol explained as they walked to the arena. You have become something of a celebrity. The one-armed Deathworlder is trending across all Federation communication channels. Great, Jack muttered. Just what I wanted, fame. It is more than that, Errol said seriously. You are changing minds. This morning, 3 species requested formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Before your fight, none were interested. Jack stopped walking. Really? Errol's fur rippled. Your persistence has made them reconsider human potential. They thought losing a limb would break you. Jack looked down at his mechanical arm, then at the small alien guide. They don't understand humans very well, do they? No, Errol agreed, but they are beginning to learn. Jack entered the arena for his next fight with his head held high. This time, aliens from across the station watched, and this time, when the announcer introduced Jack Mason of Earth, there was something new in the alien voices. It sounded almost like respect. The next 3 days blurred together for Jack. He faced 5 more opponents in the arena, each one chosen specifically to test his new limitations. A floating creature that attacked from all sides, forcing him to defend without his left arm. A swift, 4-limbed fighter that used sound waves to disorient him. A massive beast that relied on brute strength, assuming Jack would be weaker now. Each time, Jack adapted. He learned to use his mechanical arm as a shield. He discovered that its simple design could absorb impacts that would break bone. When the arm was damaged in his 7th fight, he tore it off himself and used the jagged edge as a weapon. The medical team replaced it afterward with an upgraded version. Jack didn't ask why they were suddenly being helpful. He could see the change in how the aliens looked at him now. There was caution in their eyes. Some even showed signs of respect. After his 8th victory, Jack sat in the recovery room while Errol applied healing gel to his cuts. His body was a map of scars now. "You have reached the semifinals," Errol said, his fur rippling with excitement. No human was expected to progress past the 3rd round. Jack flexed his mechanical fingers. "How many rounds total?" 10. "But the final trials are different. Not just combat." Jack nodded. His entire body ached. The medical treatments helped, but they couldn't completely erase the toll of fighting day after day with one arm. The door opened and Officer Kraltox entered. Jack had not seen the official up close since the trials began. The alien looked tense, his color-shifting eyes more red than blue now. "Human Mason," he said stiffly. "I come to offer you an honorable withdrawal." Jack looked up. "Meaning?" "Meaning you have proven your worth. Earth will be granted trade status without completing the remaining trials. This is unprecedented, but the Council believes it appropriate given your unusual performance." Jack studied the alien's face. "And if I continue?" Kraltox's eyes flashed. "The remaining opponents are from apex predator species. They have been champions for decades. Fighting them with one arm is suicide." "Then why offer me the chance to quit?" Jack asked. "If I'll lose anyway, why not just let me fail?" The alien official was silent for a moment. "Because your continued participation has created complications." After Kraltox left, Errol explained. "He is afraid." Jack looked at his small guide, in surprise. "Of me. Not you specifically. What you represent." Errol's large eyes blinked slowly. "For centuries, the Federation has classified species by their worlds of origin. Deathworlders, like humans, were always considered strong but simple. Good workers, soldiers perhaps, but never equals." Jack frowned. "And now? Now you have demonstrated intelligence, adaptability, and something they cannot understand. The will to continue despite conditions that should cause surrender." Errol's fur rippled. "It challenges the entire system." Later that day, Colonel Lisa Bright arrived at the station with Dr. Olivia Green. Jack met them in a small conference room, surprised to see familiar human faces after so many alien ones. "You look like hell, Mason," Colonel Bright said, but her eyes showed pride. "Thank you, ma'am," Jack replied with a small smile. Dr. Green scanned him with her medical device. "Remarkable. Your body is adapting to the prosthetic faster than I would have thought possible." "The Federation doctors said the same thing," Jack told her. "Something about neural pathways rewiring themselves." Colonel Bright placed a data pad on the table. "Earth is watching, Mason. They've been broadcasting the trials. You've become something of a hero back home." Jack looked away, uncomfortable. "I'm just trying to survive, ma'am." "You're doing more than that," Dr. Green said. "You've changed how these aliens see humans. 3 Federation species have already requested formal diplomatic relations. Kraltox offered me a way out," Jack mentioned. "Said Earth would get trade status if I withdrew now." Colonel Bright's eyes narrowed. "He's getting desperate. Our intelligence suggests the Federation Council is divided. Some want to fast-track Earth for full membership now." "What should I do?" Jack asked. "That's not our decision to make," Colonel Bright replied. "You've earned the right to choose." Jack thought about Samantha's knife now stored in his quarters, about her words. "Make them regret underestimating you." He looked down at his mechanical arm, at the scars covering his body. "I'll continue," he said finally. The semi-final match took place in a new arena section, a zero-gravity chamber. Jack floated at one end, watching as his opponent entered from the other side. The alien had 6 limbs like a star, each ending in something resembling a hand. Its skin shifted colors constantly. A Nexarian, Errol had explained during preparation. They evolved in the gas layers of a giant planet. In 0G, they are unmatched. Federation experts had predicted certain failure for Jack. Humans relied on their strength, which was nearly useless without gravity. Jack listened to their predictions without comment. In the observation room, Colonel Bright watched anxiously with Ambassador Peter Wright, who had just arrived from Earth. "They're trying to humiliate him now," she said quietly. "This opponent was specifically chosen to exploit his weaknesses." The ambassador nodded gravely. "They fear what he represents." As the match began, Jack initially struggled. The Nexarian moved through the 0G environment with incredible grace, spinning and changing direction effortlessly. Jack tumbled awkwardly, his mechanical arm throwing off his balance. The alien landed several hits, each one sending Jack spinning away. The Federation commentators noted that the human finally seemed outmatched. Kraltox watched from his private viewing box, a satisfied expression on his face. Then something changed. Jack stopped fighting against the 0G and started working with it. He used his legs to push off surfaces. He allowed hits to propel him in useful directions. He began to move with purpose rather than reaction. The Nexarian grew frustrated, its skin flashing angry red patterns. It attacked more aggressively, and Jack used that momentum against it. When the alien charged, Jack grabbed one of its limbs with his mechanical hand and used the motion to swing himself around. His legs locked around the creature's central body, and his remaining human fist delivered a series of precise blows. The match ended with the Nexarian signaling surrender, its color fading to a dull blue. Jack released his hold and pushed gently away. In the control room, Kraltox stood abruptly. How? How did he adapt so quickly? What no one knew was that before leaving Earth, Jack had spent hours training with Samantha in NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. "Just in case," she had said, "always prepare for the worst conditions." As Jack exited the chamber, exhaustion finally overwhelmed him. His legs buckled, and he collapsed to his knees. The medical team rushed forward, but he waved them away, struggling to stand on his own. "The final trial," he gasped, his face pale but determined. "Now." Kraltox, watching from above, turned to his council. "He cannot be allowed to complete the trials. No Deathworlder has ever." The eldest council member, a being so old its species was barely recognizable, interrupted. "The rules are absolute. He has earned his right to the final trial." Jack stood tall, swaying slightly but unbowed. One more challenge. One more chance to prove that humans would not fall, would not surrender, would not be underestimated again. Jack stood before the final trial arena, surprised by what he saw. Instead of another combat ring, a vast landscape stretched before him. Mountains, forests, deserts, and wetlands all contained within the massive dome. It looked like a miniature planet. "This is not what I expected," he said to Errol, who stood beside him. The small alien's fur rippled. "The final trial is not combat but endurance. You must cross the terrain while carrying the flame of recognition." Errol pointed to a crystal torch that glowed with blue fire. "If the flame dies, you must return to the beginning." Jack took the torch in his human hand, feeling its weight. "How long do I have?" "One rotation of this station. Approximately 20 of your Earth hours." Jack studied the landscape again. "Has anyone with just one arm ever completed this?" Errol's large eyes blinked slowly. "No. The Federation records show no one-limbed competitor has ever finished this trial." Jack nodded and adjusted his simple uniform. "Then I'll be the first." As he prepared to enter the arena, Jack was surprised to see a growing crowd of aliens gathering at viewing areas. Not just officials or competitors, but beings from across the station had come to watch. Ambassador Wright approached with Colonel Bright. You've drawn quite an audience, Mason. Jack glanced at the crowd, probably hoping to see me fail. Actually, Colonel Bright said, I think they're hoping to see you succeed. Something's changed in how they view humans. Dr. Olivia Green joined them, studying her datapad. News of your progress has spread throughout the Federation. Ships are diverting to the station just to witness the final trial. Jack tried to ignore the pressure of so many eyes watching him. He focused instead on the path ahead, planning his route through the artificial landscape. The mechanical arm felt heavy today, its joints less responsive after yesterday's battle. It's time, Errol said quietly. Jack stepped onto the starting platform, raised the torch in his hand, and began his journey. The first section was gentle, rolling hills that gradually rose toward a mountain range. Jack moved at a steady pace, careful not to move too quickly and risk the flame. The blue fire flickered in the artificial breeze but remained strong. In the main observation chamber, thousands of beings from across the galaxy watched screens showing Jack's progress. Among them was Samantha Jones, who had arrived on an emergency transport from Earth. She stood with Admiral Porter, her eyes never leaving the screen. He looks exhausted, she said quietly. Wouldn't you be? The Admiral replied. 8 combat, trials, and now this, all with one arm. By the 6th hour, Jack had crossed the mountain range and entered a dense forest. The uneven ground made progress slower, and roots threatened to trip him at every step. The flame wavered dangerously when he stumbled once, nearly going out. Kraltok stood with the council leader watching Jack's careful progress. He moves too slowly. At this rate, he cannot finish in time. The council leader's translucent skin pulsed with light. Perhaps. But did you expect him to get this far? Jack reached the desert section by the 10th hour. Heat bore down on him, and the sand shifted beneath his feet. Sweat poured from his body, and the torch grew heavier with each step. The mechanical arm began to malfunction in the heat, its fingers twitching randomly. Across the Federation ship, more beings gathered. Around viewing screens, some began to cheer for the human. Others placed bets on how far he would get before collapsing. Ambassador Wright noticed the shift. They're watching him differently now. Dr. Olivia nodded beside him. They're seeing what humans have always known. It's not the falling that defines us. Colonel Bright finished the thought. It's the getting back up. The 13th hour found Jack at the edge of a wide marsh. The ground was soggy, and each step sank into mud up to his ankles. The blue flame sputtered in the damp air. Jack's body was beginning to fail him. His remaining arm trembled from exhaustion, making it difficult to keep the torch steady. His mechanical arm had stopped responding completely, hanging uselessly at his side. In the control center, Kraltox leaned forward as Jack stumbled in the marsh. The flame went out. It is over, he said with satisfaction. But Jack did not collapse in defeat. He turned and began the long journey back to the starting point for a new flame. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the exhausted human retraced his steps through the marsh, the desert, and the forest. 3 hours later, with a newly lit torch, Jack reached the marsh again. This time, he fashioned a sling from his torn uniform, creating a way to carry the torch without using his hand. The flame remained steady as he crossed the wetlands. Impressive improvisation, the Federation medical officer commented as he watched. Perhaps we have underestimated their problem-solving abilities. Jack was within sight of the finish when disaster struck. His mechanical arm finally detached completely, falling into the grass. At the same moment, a massive storm swept across the final grassland section of the course. Winds and rain that had not been part of the original trial. Kraltox had intervened one last time. In the observation room, Samantha leapt to her feet. That's not fair. That storm wasn't there before. Admiral Porter's face darkened. Someone's changing the rules. Jack disappeared in the deluge, the blue flame no longer visible. Minutes passed with no sign of him. The Federation Council stood to declare the trial over. Then a figure emerged from the tempest, Jack barely conscious, his uniform in tatters. He had wrapped the torch in layers of his clothing, sheltering the flame from the rain. Somehow it still burned. With his last reserves of strength, Jack staggered to the final platform and placed the torch in its receptacle. The flame flared, bright blue, spreading across a ring of crystals that signaled completion of the trial. As the light confirmed his victory, Jack collapsed. This time, he didn't get up. When he awoke days later in the medical bay, Errol sat beside his bed, eyes wide with excitement. "You've changed everything," the translator explained. "The Federation has reclassified Earth. You're not just a participant species now. You're being offered full membership." Colonel Bright entered with Ambassador Wright. "Jack, meet the new Federation liaison to Earth." It was Tella, the Council, member who had defended his right to continue. She bowed slightly. "Staff Sergeant Mason, your people have a remarkable quality we've rarely encountered. You call it perseverance. We would be honored to learn it from you." Jack looked at his missing arm, then at the gathered faces, human and alien. "I'm just one example," he said. "Wait until you meet the rest of us." 1 week later, the Federation vessel returned to Earth orbit. The terms they brought were not the expected subjugation, but an alliance offer. And in galactic records, Earth gained a new classification. Approach with respect and caution. They don't know when they're beaten. Back on Earth, Jack stood on a beach watching the sunset. Samantha found him there, staring at the stars becoming visible in the darkening sky. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Being the human who changed how the galaxy sees us?" Jack turned to her with a small smile. "I just did what any of us would have done. I kept going." Samantha looked up at the sky. "They thought you'd fall." "They didn't understand humans very well," Jack replied. "But they're learning." Above them, the first Federation ships began arriving to establish diplomatic relations with Earth, not as conquerors or protectors, but as equals. All because one human refused to fall when everyone expected him to.